Hi people, welcome to my channel. This is part 1 of 2 of the British airliner collection at Imperial War Museum, Duxford. In this video we will be looking at the first 4 aircraft on this ticket. Please note that the Herald has been removed from the collection so won't be included. Please like and subscribe and enjoy the video. This Concorde GA-XDN, also known as Concorde 101, it was the third pre-production Concorde aircraft ever built. Its maiden flight was on December 17th, 1971. It was retired to Duxford on the 20th of August 1977 and was never used commercially. This mannequin is wearing a depressurization suit that would have been worn by the crew testing the aircraft. Climbing the stairs to the rear entrance of the Concorde, I realised how high up the aircraft stands, being 37 foot tall.
Yeah, well, passenger plane. Not the fastest ever.
This Concorde played a crucial role in refining the final production models. It served as a test bed, allowing engineers and designers to evaluate and improve the aircraft's aerodynamics, engine performance and overall system integration.
Firing and stuff.
This is the flight data recorder, commonly known as a black box. This could be ejected from the aircraft in the event of an accident occurring. It is painted in bright orange to make it easier to find. These seats were used by the test crew primarily during takeoff and landing. They are not the same seats that would be used commercially. This Concorde only has 10 seats. The production model had 100 arranged in a 2x2 layout. This is the nitrogen jack and would be used to forcefully lower the landing gears if they failed. These 3 screens are part of the ice station. This station was used to view crucial areas of the aircraft so that the engineers could learn how icing affected these areas and how effective the de-icing system was. Above the ice station is a evacuation light. Another one is found further up towards the cockpit. This is one of 2 escape hatches on the Concorde, the other one being nearer to the front. This would be used within an emergency during testing to get out of the aircraft as a last resort. Once the outer hatch has been jettisoned, the blade on the left would extend downward into the airflow to protect the escapee from the extreme airflow. However, surviving would still be unlikely. Luckily, this never had to be used.
The chances of fortunately not. But
this is called a hydroscope and would be used to view the belly of the Concorde whilst flying. You have probably noticed that there is a lot of exposed wiring. In total, there is in fact 200 miles worth of wiring on this test Concorde. Right of this is an oxygen system that would have been used in the event of depressurization. Normal oxygen mask would have been useless at the height the Concorde flew, roughly 60,000 feet at its cruising level. So the system was used to supply oxygen into the pressure suits and helmets worn by crews testing the prototype.
on my ticket.
This is the second abandoned aircraft beacon. This red pointy device was used to cover the Concorde's droop nose while grounded. Next to this is a device that measured cosmic radiation, which was a problem due to its high altitude reaching the stratosphere. It flew so high because the higher it flew, the thinner the air was that it encountered. This led to less drag and fuel burn. As well as this, the second escape hatch is located to the left.
Oh no.
In the cockpit, there would be 3 crew members inside, 2 pilots and a flight engineer. Did not have a highly technological cockpit and had lots of dials and circuit breakers inside, unlike modern commercial airliners. This is where one of the escape hatches would open from. Looking upwards, you will see that a section of the wing is painted black and has Roman numerals aligning it. This was to test the aircraft de-icing system. Painting critical points around the aircraft black made it easier to spot the effects of ice. These points could be observed by 5 different cameras that could be viewed from inside the aircraft by the engineer during flight via the ice station. The Concorde used 4 Rolls-Royce Olympus 593 turbojet engines. Each engine produced 18.7 tons of thrust and altogether burned a crazy 6,771 gallons an hour. These engines allowed this particular Concorde to reach a speed of Mach 2.23, making it the record holder for the fastest speed in a Concorde. The Concorde had a drooping nose for aerodynamic reasons. The nose was designed to be adjustable to improve visibility during takeoff and landing. By lowering the nose, the pilots had a better view of the runway, aiding in navigation and ensuring safe operations. During supersonic flight, the nose would be raised to its normal position for optimal aerodynamic performance. Moving on, it's time for the Hermes.
Page Hermes.
The Handley Page Hermes was an airliner that first flew in 1945. This one here is the last remaining example and only the fuselage remains. This is because once it was retired in 1962, it was used by British Caledonian for cabin crew training. It then went on to be used by Gatwick Fire Service for smoke evacuation training. The Hermes cockpit has similar characteristics to the Handley Page Halifax bomber's cockpit. This is because the design was adapted and improved upon from the plans of the Handley Page Halifax. The reason for this was that there was a lack of commercial aircraft designs but plenty of military designs due to the recent events of World War II. The Hermes is not a big plane compared to today's standards, but at the time it was one of the bigger passenger planes, measuring at a length of 30.4 metres, a height of 9.1 metres and a 34.4 metre long wingspan. Here we have models of all the British airliner collection that is available at Duxford. It could carry 82 passengers, mostly being used for routes to African countries. The last flight of the Hermes was in December 1964. The reason for its retirement was that it became outclassed by new jet-engined aircraft and had problems with engine strain. The Hermes used 4 Bristol Hercules engines. Exhibit at Duxford has seats from each aircraft included in the British airliner collection, allowing visitors to sit in them. I personally chose to sit in the Concorde seats as shown, which I must say isn't very luxurious and comfortable as I would have thought, considering tickets were around £10,000 at the time.
Now sat on the Concorde seats.
The exit to the Hermes was surprisingly a lot easier to get out of compared to many other aircraft that were made during that time period.
And it's the only last one left, in a sense. Really? Yeah.
Next up, we have the Avro York. The York was a 4-engine transport aircraft developed by Avro in the 1940s. It has unfortunately been overshadowed by other iconic aircraft of its time, but was extremely durable, reliable and a well-rounded aircraft that was capable of all kinds of helpful roles. The Avro York was the brainchild of Avro, a renowned British aircraft manufacturer. The York was designed for civilian and military transport purposes. It incorporates the same wings, tail, undercarriage and engines of the iconic Lancaster bomber. This one at Duxford was used for cargo and most importantly was used during the Berlin airlift to deliver crucial supplies into West Berlin. This was because it was capable of carrying more weight than most aircraft twice their size. Passenger versions of the Avriorc were also created and could seat 56 passengers. This example was involved in an accident in January 1949. This happened whilst landing in West Berlin when its undercarriage collapsed. It was later repaired and put into storage till 1951, where it was used for in-flight refueling trials by Fairey Aviation. Once the trials were over, it was put back into storage for disposal. Whilst walking through this plane, I noticed that its floors was uneven and dipped in the middle. I went on to ask a worker about why this was and got lots of information about the aircraft. Here's that conversation.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly ask a few questions about this. My main one is, it has a dip in, I've noticed, like why is...
Well, that's its construction. It's got a tailplane, and of course it's down on the floor, so
Right.
they have to sort of grade the floor to suit. But this is a lot of people are affected by this plane. They feel giddy on it. When I first became involved with this 5 years ago,
Right.
my partner came on here. She walked up the steps. She got to about there.
Yeah.
And she said, I can't go any further. She turned around, came straight back off, and she's never been there again.
Really?
Because she was dizzy. And
Yeah.
you're the fourth person that's mentioned it today.
Oh, okay.
It's usually ladies.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
We don't know how many people don't report it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of those that do, 90% are ladies.
It was mostly because I kind of tripped a little bit and I was like, oh, there's a bit of a dip in it.
And you see, if you look here, another thing that does it is that all the stringers along the side of the fuselage, they're all going sloping in different directions.
Yeah.
The floor slopes in 3 different directions, not the same slopes as the ceiling.
Right.
And so all that, it's very difficult. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
When it's empty, it's worse when it's empty. When there are people on there,
Yeah.
you don't see it so much.
Yeah. And why is it so bare? It's got
Because
no
this
panels.
This is only a cargo. This is
It's
only
only
ever
cargo.
a cargo.
They never
plane.
bothered.
Yes, this particular one was only ever a cargo plane.
Yeah.
Some of them did carry passengers, troop carriers. 4 of them during the war were rigged out, or just after the war, to carry VIPs around to conferences and things like that. But some of these were also very early package tour planes.
Okay.
They got seats in them, and they used to fly down to Spain or whatever on package tours. But the passenger ones would have been lined.
Okay.
This came into its own in the Berlin airlift when the Russians blockaded Berlin.
Yeah.
Because this could carry 10 tons of freight, whereas the next best could only carry 5.7.
So it was quite far
So-
ahead in a
Well,
sense.
not it was just bulky and strong.
Yeah.
So one flight with this was almost 2 flights for any other plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many? I heard they used to do many a day. How many would they roughly?
How many sorties?
Yeah.
Well, roughly speaking, there was one every 2 minutes, day and night, for about 16 months.
That's crazy.
Because, everything from babies' nappies to sacks of coal, food, building materials, everything had to be flown in.
And that's because
And all
Stalin
the
blocked
rubbish had to be flown out.
Stalin blocked every road.
He blocked the roads, the canals, the railways.
Everything.
After about 16 months, he realised he wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And so he opened up the roads again, but he made it incredibly difficult. Lorries were waiting 3 and 4 days at the border to be allowed across, and that sort of thing. And of course, unfortunately, we've got the same thing happening now in Ukraine, but 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. Okay.
But this was really, the Berlin airlift was really the first big act of the Cold War.
Yeah. Like we done history in school.
Yeah.
And it's weird actually seeing this plane and how it wasn't very advanced, and yet they were done so much in the Cold War.
Exactly. But you see, when you think that this This came here in 1986, but it hadn't been used in the 60s. But these were still being used when Concorde first flew.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
So how?
Well, Concorde first flew in 1969. I mean, that's 54 years ago.
Sometimes with the Concorde, it's hard to forget how long ago it actually first flew.
Exactly.
How crazy because of the
Jumbo
technology.
jet first flew in 1969 as well.
Yeah.
No, I mean and of course Dakotas, which were flying before this, are still flying today.
I know. Yes. Yes. I very much appreciate it, sir.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Comet 4.
Very low down door.
Before we talk about the Comet 4, let's take a step back and briefly touch upon the history of the de Havilland Comet series. The original Comet, introduced in the 1950s, was the world's first commercial jet airliner. It was a marvel of engineering and a symbol of Britain's aviation prowess. However, the early Comet suffered from fatal design flaws that led to a series of tragic accidents, resulting in a major setback for the aircraft and its manufacturer. One such incident happened on the 10th of January 1954 as a de Havilland Comet suffered explosive decompression mid-flight and crashed, killing all 35 people on board, ultimately getting the Comet grounded for 7 years, and the biggest aircraft investigation in history began. It was found that the reason for the decompressions was due to fatigue crack growth in the pressure cabin around the square windows. De Havilland persevered and redesigned the Comet to stop it happening, which you can see as the Comet 4 has circular porthole windows as well as a structural reinforcement and better safety features to its earlier models. The Comet 4 boasted a quiet cabin and a smooth ride. Passengers could enjoy greater comfort during their journeys with reduced noise levels and improved pressurization systems, minimalizing the effects of altitude changes. It truly elevated the flying experience. Here is a menu that has items that would have been served on a Comet 4 flight. The de Havilland Comet 4 not only transformed air travel in Britain but also had a significant impact worldwide. It opened up new long-haul routes connecting continents and bringing people closer together. This sleek and powerful jet became a symbol of progress.
Look how many people.
This is an unpanelled part of the Comet 4's improved airframe around a window.
So this is like, yeah. If I put this up, head again, it's a bit crazy.
The Comet 4s was the last of the Comet series and retired from BOAC in November 1967, but some continued to be used by the RAF and other airlines till 1981. This one at Duxford made its final commercial flight in 1973 for Danair. It came to Duxford in 1975 and was the first aircraft to be a part of what is now the British airliner collection. The de Havilland Comet 4 was a leap forward in terms of performance, with 4 Rolls-Royce Avon Mk524 turbojets, which help it reach a high altitude of 42,000 feet and a great speed of to 526 miles per hour. Thank you for watching. I will be making part 2 of this video shortly, where it will be a much more improved video.